Hi, we played and tried lately Dunaïa, which is a new dice rolling dice placement, I would say dice drafting mainly, a game where people are transferred in this fantasy sci-fi theme where each player has 6 gigantic robots, Dunaïas, which are being activated by a strange energy, and essentially players are playing the chieftain of one of the tribes, trying to use those majestic robots that they were found in the wild on this planet in order to be able to help them to develop their area, their city, and become the dominant tribe and win the game. The game uses a very elegant and clever dice drafting system where you take one of the die, you place it one of the dice from the pool, you place it on one of either on one of your buildings to get some bonuses, or on one of the common action slots in order to gain currency, which is the metal flowers, or to improve some of your buildings or do some other stuff. But the important thing is that when you take one of the die, you activate the corresponding Dunaïa robot on your player board. You have 6 robots numbered from 1 to 6, so if I take the 5 pip die, I will activate Dunaïa 5, and respectively in a 9x9 grid, Dunaïas sit in between the building foundation locations. They will activate either the pre-printed symbol for gaining resources or memory chips, or the building if you have indeed managed to build it to gain the benefit. The game offers, through its elegant, simple design, a lot of things to delve on and lots of things to think and strategize without bogging you down with numerous rules. It makes sense what you're doing, it makes sense what you're expecting during your turn. It has a fast flow and essentially has a very unique and I would say standing theme with all its aesthetics and visual looks on the table. A very nice surprise. I was very happy to discover it and to play it. So let me show you how the game plays. I will explain all the rules and we'll come back at the end of this video, as we do always, for a wrap-up and our final opinions from our sessions with Dunaïa. The Dunaïas, beings of steel, fueled by mysterious energy and wielding complex powers, were the source of terrible conflicts. Ancient tribes, now infamously known as the Fallen, killed each other to control them. After their death, a prophecy heralding the coming of a new civilization was revealed. As the chief of a tribe, become the protector of the Dunaïas and prove that your aim is to start a new age of peace. Each player is a tribal chief in Dunaïas, and they wish to become the protector of the Dunaïas, so to do so they have to erect buildings, reassemble artifacts, fulfill parts of the prophecy and collect metal flowers. Each turn the player chooses a die. With it they can awaken a Dunaïa, which triggers the effects of the 2 adjacent locations. So if they select this one, they trigger that one and this one, either the pre-printed one or the developed one from the buildings that you can develop and build and give additional benefits. Then they can place the die on the available recycle square on a level 1 building, even if it belongs to another player, or on the dedicated area of the common board to recycle the Dunaïa's energy. At the end of the turn, a part of the prophecy has been fulfilled, so the player takes the corresponding tile. The end of the game is triggered when a player has built their 9th building or retrieved the 3rd and last prophecy tile from the main board. So let's get familiar with the components of the game. We have 4 individual player boards that you can see here. I have laid out 2 in front of you. This is how they look like. They have a location for 9 buildings over there. Even before building something, you have something pre-printed, so they give this benefit. These are the chips which correspond to upgrades that you can have. This is the location of your 3 markers, and these are the spots in between 2 building locations where you can have the Dunaïas. So if it's there, it activates those 2, if it's there, it activates those 2, and so on and so forth. So this is the main board. Each player has also in their color 1 die, yellow, and the green, for example, that they're here. it starts on this area. We're going to explain setup. We also have 5 white dice that they are used from everybody. Each player has a set of 6 Dunaïa figurines. So the yellow one has all the way from 1 to 6. You can see the number of the Dunaïa. You have them all laid out there. You also have metal flowers in denominations of value of 6 for the orange, 3 for the blue, and 1 for the purple. 4 sets for with 6 memory chips, 1 set of 6 for each of the players next to their board. They're not installed yet, they're installed once they click in there, as you would see. And of course we have some great variety of 40 building tiles on different levels, level 1, level 2 and level 3. Some artifact fragments that you use to make an artifact by combining 3, and some elder powers that they are installed in these slots over there. Also we have, of course, the respective prophecy tiles which are on the top, and there are many more than those that you see here. I've just selected 3 and 3, but there are more for variety that they are inside the box at the moment. So how do you set up the game? First of all, for each player, what you need to do is you need to take the individual board in front of you. Then you take the 3 construction tokens in your player color and you put them in these designated slots on the bottom right of your player board. You take 2 metal flowers as your starting income, which is the money of the game essentially. You take 1 set of 6 memory chips with different values that are kept next to your board but not installed in the slots. You take, of course, 1 set of Dunaïa figurines, 1 of each number, and each figure is placed between 2 squares, as shown here. So I put Dunaïa number 1 with value 1 here, and then 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 in this exact slot. Every player does the same. You see the green player has the green figurines, standees, the yellow one, the yellows, and so on. Then we have the common board, which is over here. We place it in the center of the table. We take randomly 3 elders out of the 5. These are the elder tiles that you can see here, and they give some special bonuses. There are 5 in the game box. We only use 3, and the game suggests that we start with those specific 3 ones for our first game. Then we take the artifact fragments, we slot them on the respective slot here, and then we make a pile with each fragment tile sitting on its own respective pile, as you can see here. We take the flower tokens and we place them close to the board in piles of their respective denominations, and we randomly draw a prophecy tile of each color and place them in the corresponding notches on the top of the game board, which is this, that and this. Again, for your first game, it's recommended that you use the specific 3 ones as shown here. We take 1 die of each player in their color and the 5 white die, 4 in a 3-player game. We roll them and we place them at the bottom of the common board over here, as you can see, under their corresponding value. The color dice closest to the board as seen here. So here that we have both white dice and the player colors dice, we use the color dice at the bottom and we use the common dice at the end of each column. So we don't do that essentially, that's what I'm describing, but we do that for setup. But in each case, each value goes under the respective column of the pips. So let's have a closer look on the buildings. What we do is we shuffle the level 1 buildings that you can see, the level of the building indicated on the top left corner of each building. So this is level 1, these are level 2 and these are level 3 in various colors. We shuffle the 16 level 1 building tiles and pile them with the under construction side, which is this one, the under construction side. You can differentiate it from the completed because it has a full blown up building art, which is really nice, by the way, for each of the buildings. But all of them should be under construction side, a pile of level 1s on the bottom slot, a pile of level 2s in the middle slot, and a pile of level 3 on the top slot. Let's see the breakdown of the details of the buildings. You can see that you have the level 1, 2 or 3 here. Then you have the type, which could be green, yellow, purple or red. You have 3 to 5 construction locations, which are here. This one has these squares here. These are steps for the construction. You can have a more complicated level 3 building that requires more steps in order to be constructed, but you can see them at the bottom left area. Then you can have, of course, the effect of the building once you build it, and you can have it also indicated from the back side, again showing the value, the level of the building and the ability once it's placed. The buildings are going in these lots under construction first and then completed once they are fully constructed. When completed buildings have different effects depending on the bottom left icon. If they have a die, a level 1 building offers you a new recycling square for the dice. We'll explain this later on. A level 2 building like this one has this icon once completed, and it offers you benefits every time you awaken a Dunaïa located next to it. We'll explain again how this goes. These benefits increase depending on the number of completed buildings of the same color adjacent to that building. And these are levels 1 and 2 examples. And then you can have a level 3 example, which again, this doesn't have any icon. A level 3 generally gives you victory points for each adjacent completed building of a specific color. And keep in mind that awakening a Dunaïa next to a completed level 3 like this one, or level 1 like this one, does not have any effect. Only for level 2 ones you get the effect. So the first player would be the wisest player and starts as a first player. So good luck figuring this out without any conflict. So let's see the game turn. Each turn players must go through 4 phases. First phase, choosing a die. Second phase, awakening the Dunaïa. Third phase, recycling the die. And fourth phase, prophecy. And optional, we can call on the elders, which is an expansion that you can add after your first game or even at the beginning with these elders. During their turn, a player can call on the elders as often as they want, before or after any phase. At the end of a player's turn, the next player on the left becomes the active player, starts a turn, and so on until the game ends. So let's go quickly through the 4 phases. Phase 1, choosing the die. While wobbly scaffolding is erected around the Dunaïas, workers from the tribes bring them the stones that they will activate them. The active player chooses one of the available white dice. You have to first choose the white from the bottom of the main board, takes the die, and this is the one that they have chosen for their turn. If no white die is available, the active player takes the die of their color. Players cannot take their colored die if there are still white dice left. Okay, so you'll always have to take first the white dice and then lastly your own colored dice, but you cannot take a die from other players' color. Also, if there are no dice left at the bottom of the board in this section, then the player will take all the dice the other players have placed on their buildings, so they can be on their player boards, plus the ones that they are on the top area here, the recycling area. They will roll them and again sort them out on the bottom of the main board and choose one die accordingly. The second phase is awakening the Dunaïa. Vibrations shook the ground, and the architects looked up as the metallic eyes of the Dunaïas were mirroring the fragile hope of a new age. The active player awakens the Dunaïa matching the die value they picked up on the previous phase, and they perform the awakening effect if any. For the 2 squares, the 2 locations, the building locations next to the Dunaïa, the player can choose the order in which their awakening effects are performed. And by meaning that, let's say that I selected this die, the 3 one, I take it here. This is one that I select. I activate Dunaïa with the value 3, and she activates the two building locations that they are adjacent. So she is between those two. Let me show you that because I picked 3. And they activate those two locations. Now these locations could be either an effect on an empty square, like this one, which means take a metallic flower from the bank, or a chip like this one, which means insert, like this one, insert the chip of the same value as the awakening Dunaïa into the right hand side of your board, meaning I took value 3, so I will insert this chip here for value 3. I do both, the sequence and the order is up to me. But these are if you have pre-printed. You can also have effects on buildings under construction. So for example, if you had this one under construction, here, you would again take one metal flower, and for this one, what you would do is you would move the construction token to the next square of the construction phase. So this would go here. Or if it was here, you would move next step. So indicating that there is a progression on the construction of the building under construction. When the token has reached the last slot on the construction queue, meaning the last spot over there, then the building is completed. The construction token is placed back into the slot, so it goes back here, and the building is flipped to the completed side. So this is what you're trying to do, is you're trying to complete buildings, because then you will be able to gain the benefits from those buildings. So instead of having next time the pre-printed, let's say minimal benefit from this one, you will have the advanced enhanced benefit of that building. So let's talk about the case where you have completed level 2 buildings, because the only level 2 buildings are activated by Dunaïa's location as indicated, not level 1 and level 3. Okay, only level 2. So the player benefits from the effect shown on the center of the tile, plus from the effect shown on each arrow pointing to the adjacent completed building of the same color. So for example, for this one, when it's activated due to the Dunaïa next to it, you'll give you one metal flower, but actually it could be not only one, it could be 1 to 5, because you can also take from this adjacent areas. So imagine this being in the center here, and imagine this was activated, so you take one metal flower, it was activated, let's say, with the number 2 from here. So I will take one, I will put the chip number 2 here, and I will activate this tile. This will give me potentially from 1 up to 5. Why up to 5? Because if the color of the buildings pointing to the arrows are of that color indicated, so if you have red here, red here, red here, and red here buildings, then you're going to take 1 plus how many red buildings you have pointing out, meaning that for example, let's say I had also this building here, and again these buildings also need to be completed, not under construction. So let's say we have previously completed this one, and this was here. So when I activate with number 2 again this, I will take the memory chip as I said, because this is pre-printed, and I will take 1 plus 1, because this is red, pointing to the red, 2 metal flowers. So this is how those metal flower providing level 2 buildings work. You can also have bonuses that they give you, as you can see, 1 to 3 memory chips of your choice onto the right hand side of your board, and you take 0 to 2 metal flowers, depending again. You take one definitely a chip slotted in your player board, and then you can either take 2 more if you match 2 green left and right, and 2 more, up to 2 more, up to 2, 1 and 2 metal flowers if you also have green around this. So you're trying to match essentially the colors of that. And the last one would be this one. So what you do here is you move 1 to 3 Dunaïa or Dunaïas of your choice and take 0 to 2 metal flowers. If your first awakening effect consists of moving your Dunaïa, do not perform the second awakening effect. Okay, so you only perform the first one. So these are the benefits of the level 2 buildings. This is essentially how the awakening the Dunaïa works. So, third phase, the recycling the die. The energy cycle of the Dunaïas has been channeled by the brilliant minds of the tribes. The untapped excess fuel of the steel giants is turned into steam. When it starts raining, the surplus of its powerful and unstable energy is immediately harnessed through a recycling process. So what happens in this phase? The active players perform an action by placing their die, the one that they selected previously, on either a recycling square, one of those areas, or on a completed level 1 building that they have on their board. For example, this level 1 building here, which has also the die icon on the bottom right for indication, so that you can perform that action. So on the common board, the 4 actions available are, starting with the first one, and any number of dice can be here, okay, once been taken. So on the common board, let's put this back as it was, the 4 actions available are the following. The first one here, start the construction of a new building. Take one of the 6 building tiles available. There are 6 building tiles, 1, 2, level 1, 1, 2, level 2, and 1, 2, level 3. Take it, pay its price in metal flowers. So if I take this one, I would pay 3 metal flowers, and I would put it on the constructed side on an empty slot of my board. By doing so, I would also put one of my construction markers on the first space on the construction queue as shown here. If I don't have any, I cannot do this. I need to have at least one of the 3 construction markers available. If I place a die here, I take a metal flower. If I place a die here, I move the Dunaïa of my choice on an empty space on the board. So I move them somewhere so they're better prepared, waiting for a possible activation. And if I place a die here, I insert one memory chip of my choice on the right hand side of my board. So before, let's say I have 2 and 3, I can select, regardless of the number of the die selected, one of my choice and put it in the slot. So these are the options from recycling a die. Let's have a closer look on a completed level 1 building, because when you take a die and you put it on a completed level 1 building like that, you activate that building. So the player can also place a die on another player's building belonging to another player on their player board, as long as it's vacant, by giving a metal flower to its owner. So we have these options. For example, this one. For this one, when we place a die on this level 1 building, immediately we take 3 metal flowers from the stock. We can have this building, level 1, when we place a die on this building. We activate it and we move up to 3 Dunaïas of our choice. Then we have this building. We move the construction token of a building of our choice up 1 square by putting a die on this level 1 building, so I can progress 1. Okay. And the last one is this one, where I insert 2 memory chips of my choice onto the right hand side of my board. So I select 2 and I insert them on the respective vacant slot, like that. So I insert 1 and 2, for example, if these were my choice. So these are all the options of the level 1 buildings that are activated by a die. And again, in order to indicate that, you see that first of all they're level 1, and second of all they show from the completed side a die, indicating that they can take a die on them for their benefit. Now this is a third phase. The fourth phase is the prophecy. The hologram faded away in the deafening silence of the High Council hut. There was no sound but the crackling of braziers releasing scents of incense. The chiefs eyed each other waringly, no one daring to question the word of the past. In this phase, phase 4, prophecy, if all requirements of one or several prophecy tokens are met, the player takes them and places them in front of them for victory points, essentially. When the last prophecy token is recovered, the end of the game is triggered. Remember, we have only 3. I'm just briefly going to explain, for example, this green one. This means that you need to have at least 6 buildings completed on your board. It could be 7 or 8, depending on different tile. This one can be taken by a player who has 12 metal flowers, or it could be that another one indicates that you have 2 completed artifacts, or 7 flowers and 1 completed artifact, and other purple ones. And this orange one means that you need to have 1 completed building, completed building of each level, so level 1, level 2 and level 3. Others can say that you need to have 3 completed buildings aligned vertically, horizontally, and so on, respectively. So during the prophecy stage of your turn, if you manage to fulfill one of those, you simply pick up the prophecy tile. So let's talk about the call of the elders, which are those elders here. The holographic messages left by the thinkers of the fallen speak of many artifacts disseminated across the world. These relics could give a real advantage to the tribe who manages to reassemble them. By discarding the necessary memory chips from the side of their board, a player can call on the elders before or after any phase of their turn. This action can be performed several times during a turn. So for example, you see that each elder has some requirements, 2 pre-printed. This is a 5 chip, a 6 chip, and none on this tile. This shows a 3 chip, a 4 chip, and whichever number else you want. And this is just 1 chip and 2 chips. So by fulfilling the requirements in memory chips that you have installed, and by spending them, moving them to the right, you can call on some or more of the elders, depending on the chips you have acquired and you want to spend. After discarding the memory chips as done now, the player performs the power of the elder. Then they take the artifact fragment next to the elder. So for example, let's say I had a 3, a 4 and another number, doesn't matter, 6, whatever. Then I discard them from there. I put them, not discard them, deassemble them from my slot, and then I perform the ability of this elder. Specifically this one, take a color token of your choice and immediately place it on a building completed or under construction. This building now works as if it was on its initial color and of the color of each token placed on at the same time. Basically, that's why you need to have one of those, one of each colors of the buildings, each player. So basically what you need to do is you can put, for example, this building here. Therefore this acts, let's say this building here. So this acts not only as purple, but also as yellow. Then you have this ability, which simply it gives you 2 metal flowers, or you can have this ability which makes you move to Dunaïas of your choice. And there are 2 more, one that gives you, moves forward the construction token of a building of your choice, and another one that allows you to take whichever building tile you want in the pile of your choice, pay it and place it on the square of your individual board, and add the construction token and reshuffle the pile you took it from. So you select whatever you want. Keep in mind, before when I took this tile, what I would do is I would replenish it with 1 more and reveal the bottom. So there are only always 2 of each level available. So the end of the game. As time goes by, many buildings will be erected, some of them interconnected, providing the mastery of their builders. Artifact fragments will be recovered and metal flowers collected. Keep in mind, when I use the ability, I take this respective fragment. So when I later take other fragments, artifacts, fragments, by using other abilities of the rest of the elders, I will start assembling and at some point complete 1 artifact by putting the 3 fragments together. Keep in mind I can only have one artifact under construction, but once I completed one of those, I can start making a second one respectively. And the more artifacts completed I have, the more victory points I will get at the end of the game. Now, speaking of the end of the game is triggered when the last prophecy token is retrieved from here, those 3 ones, or when a player finishes the construction of the 9th building. All 9 buildings are constructed on the player board. When this happens, after finishing the ongoing round, all players take a last turn, and if needed, we roll the dice. Each player removes all uncompleted buildings from their board and totalizes the points of each completed buildings of the level. So only completed buildings contribute to victory points. Uncompleted like this one does not contribute, so I will take 1, 3, 1, 2, 2, 1, 3, and 1 victory points from those buildings. The points of each arrows on level 3 buildings pointing to adjacent buildings of the same color. So for example, this is a level 3, this is a level 3. So if I had the red below, which I do have, I will give me 2 additional victory points as indicated on the arrow. 2 to 4 points per prophecy tile that you acquired. So if I had completed this prophecy tile, I will take 3 victory points. Points according to the number of completed artifacts. If I only have 1 completed artifact, I gain 1 point. If I have 2, 3 points. If I have 3, 6 points. If I have 4 completed artifacts, 10 points. If I have 5 completed artifacts, 14 points, and for each added one, plus 4 points more. Then I take 1 point per set of 3 metal flowers that I have. So these 3 would give me 1 victory point left in my reserves. In case of a tie, the player with the most prophecy tiles wins, and in case of a tie, the player with the most metal flowers wins. And if still a tie, the victory is shared. So the last thing I want to describe is the elite characters here. So the alternative setup is we draw 1 elite character tile for each player plus 1 and flip them over to the center of the table. These are the elite tiles, and in reverse turn order, starting with the last player, each player picks a tile. We put them in front of our player area, and the remaining tiles are put away into the box. There are 6 elite character tiles, essentially giving abilities. So for example, this one, building costs 1 metal flower less, as shown here. Then we have this one, where you pick a die, you can turn it to the opposite side, very useful ability. Then you can have this one. Once a turn, you can spend 2 metal flowers to move forward the construction token of one of your buildings. Once a turn, you can discard 2 memory chips of your choice to move any Dunaïa of your choice and collect 2 metal flowers. At the end of your turn, you can move the Dunaïa you have just awakened for free. And the last one, at the end of your turn, you can book one of the 6 buildings available for purchase. Place it next to your elite character tile. When you start the construction, you can purchase that booked building at the lowest price for buildings of its level. You can only book 1 building at a time. So these are the elite characters, and of course by giving 1 to each player, you get 1 additional ability helping you with your role in the game. So there you have it. These are the rules for playing Dunaïa, and this is everything you need to know on how to play the game. Lots of things to like on this design. I really enjoyed the fast flow of the game. Each turn the player first drafts a die, then they activate the Dunaïa linking to that number of the die that you drafted, potentially getting some resources or some other benefits from your table, from your board, your construction area or your city. And then what you do is you place the die either again on one of your buildings to get additional benefits, or in one of the common board allocations to gain some benefits as well. After you do that, of course, you are able to spend memory chips from your slots, if you have installed them already, as let's say currency in order to use some of the abilities of the elders to do some additional things and potentially pick up some fragments of a 3-piece artifact fragment. And the more fragments you take, the more artifacts you construct, and the more artifacts you construct, the more victory points you get at the end of the game. So all this blends together very easily, but during your turn you just take a die, you put it somewhere and you do one action, and then it's the next player's turn, and that's really, really fast. I like the fact that the game offers the special elders, the leaders, or how it calls them. It's some unique abilities that you have that give a small edge, but it's important when used correctly to give you some benefits that you can speed up your progress and develop even further. It's all about building the correct buildings at the correct locations, because you gain, especially for level 3 buildings, some victory points at the end of the game if they have the corresponding number of color buildings next to them, together with other benefits, and also positioning the Dunaïa robots on the correct areas, so that by getting the correct respective die matching the Dunaïa robot, you activate it and gain the benefits. It's a very slick, easy and fascinating design that always has your mind thinking of different combinations of buildings and different combinations of positioning of robots in order to maximize your income essentially on the various things, either memory chips or metal flowers, which is the currency of the game. But it's all done in a very slick way. It plays very, very fast, so all of it together, it blends smoothly, and it gives a very nice package with a great game flow, a nice replayability, and I would say some simple, fast, but very meaningful decisions to make during your turn. So there you have it. This is my first initial thoughts after a couple of sessions with Dunaïa. Hope you enjoyed this video. Till next time, many thanks for watching.